Only the main channel.
This is for OG fans.
All five of you who are still around.
All five OG fans.
Because what was great was when you switched to like the more highbrow commentary, all the people who were with us for the live reactions got pissed and left.
Yeah.
And that's totally true. That's exactly what happened.
So many people.
Those first few videos had so many complaints about people like, oh God, what's with this pretentious bullshit?
So many people.
You know, you get angry at Alex Myers for changing brands, but I don't know.
Yeah, we did a major brand change. Major brand change. Okay. All right, guys. So, hey there, everybody. How's it going? So today we are going a callback, doing Overlord Season 2 live reactions.
Backed by non-popular demand.
Absolutely. Now, if anybody is unfamiliar with why we're doing this, it's because the channel originally started with Overlord live reactions. So why not do it again? So I am here with Brian.
Hey.
And Roger.
Yo.
Joe, are we ever going to get that Joe cut of the Perfect Insider, whatever it was called?
This is a good question.
I mean,
I'm not going to answer.
I said that I actually might beat Joe to it and steal his thunder and do my own Perfect Insider super
Perfect Insider.
Because I feel like
this is a lot better as a movie.
Yeah, I feel like there is a very, very good anime. It's like very good 2 hours worth of content inside 10 hours worth of shit.
Where they're just like sitting on the beach talking about like, oh God.
It's kind of like Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Oh, let's go.
I actually kind of like The Last Jedi.
It was so bad. It was so bad.
Okay, so my friend and I, we came to like the
understanding. Space cow.
We came to the understanding of The Last Jedi, described as what would happen if everything in the Star Wars universe is bad. And that's what we got.
If they had cut the B plot from that movie, it would be a very good drama about a woman running away from her abusive husband to go back to her drunk father to prevent him from committing suicide. And then she saves both of them. But instead, no. There's space cow titties, pod racing, and some story about love and not sacrificing yourself. It's so weird. It was so bad.
I don't remember pod racing.
It's because it wasn't actually pods. It was running camel things.
Oh, okay. Okay, fuck. Okay,
exactly. Well. People forget like 45 minutes of that movie. They just block it out of their brains. And then they go, yeah, that was a good movie. And then they just go, oh, wait.
All right.
So, okay.
Overlord. Okay, so first episode of Season 2 of Overlord is called The Dawn of Despair. Or in the Japanese, Despair, no, Akatsuki. Okay. So, let's see here. I guess we just do like a... Oh, where's Brian gone?
I'm right here. I was just
chewing
something.
I guess we should probably count... Like, we should go like 3, 2, 1, and then go?
Sure.
Yep.
All right. Okay, so let's get this started. Okay, it's going to be 3, 2, 1, go.
Rubik's Cube, international sign for intelligence.
Oh, yeah, man. Rubik's Cubes are tough. Like,
Fox had a great video on Rubik's Cubes recently.
Now,
it's all like algorithm based.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with your intelligence. It's all about memorizing patterns.
Yeah. Well, because Overlord is a video game, right? The Rubik's Cube
Oh,
is
that's
a
a good.
game, so they're
Oh
like
shit,
playing a
Roger,
game
that's actually a
inside
really
a
good
game.
point.
These people are getting stumped by a fucking Rubik's Cube.
So they got a bigger budget for the season, right? You could tell right away. Everything looks a lot better.
We've talked multiple times, Brian, about shows potentially front loading.
Oh, that's true. Because this looks really good. That's very true.
This could turn ugly fast.
Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, they're talking about Shaltier from the first season.
Yeah. Oh god, it's all coming back to me now. It's like that Celine Dion song. Gown? G-O?
Einzergon.
So these are video game characters, right?
Oh, she's rubbing her belly.
She's prego.
Oh. Oh, pregnancy. Don't do that, girl. You are worth more than that. You shouldn't be relegated to baby making. So, like, I appreciate what this scene is doing, which is like it's actually having the dragon move his mouth. Because
Yeah,
like,
but the next episode it won't because it'll save on animation budget.
it'd be like, I've decided to communicate telepathically now. And he's like, oh, okay. Because that happens a lot in anime. Like,
I know.
Dragons will just like not move their mouths, or like they'll just be talking while they're doing other stuff. They'll be like, I'm communicating telepathically.
I really appreciate that Ainz isn't in this opening.
Well, I think that's the point of like this arc starting to happen, right? It's starting to move away from Ainz.
And that might be good because I don't like him at all.
Most powerful entity in the entire world, my dude.
Arbitrarily powerful.
Oh yeah, that really bad fight from last season.
Oh, there we go.
Didn't Joe do a video on that fight?
A different fight.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, the mouth is starting to like falter now. It's just like open mouth.
Yeah, just
Yeah, he's acting like he's breathing or something.
Yeah, he does look like he's breathing, and there's like another mouth inside of him just incidentally.
Well, you know, we had a game inside a game. We have a mouth inside a mouth.
Wait,
Wow,
Ainz's mouth doesn't move when he talks either, right?
Yeah, Ainz's mouth doesn't move at
God,
all.
this show saves so much money.
At all. There is nothing.
Crossfade.
Oh, that king looks tired. Oh, hey. Hey, my dudes, it's beef stroganoff.
Look, it's Brain or whatever from the first season.
No, Brain's a different dude. Brain's the dude with the greasy hair.
That guy has greasy hair. Look at that.
Brain's the dude with the other. Brain's the other dude with greasy hair. This is Gazaf Stronov or something. Gazaf Stronov, I think. He was the guy who was like trying to defend the village, and then he was like losing, and then Ainz came in and rescued him. my duty to defend my king in this country.
It's king and country, bro. Not king in this country. So I'm guessing this is when like people start reacting to Ainz, like, because that's what everyone explained the show as. Is like it's really people reacting.
So like this scene is this whole sequence is kind of interesting in a way because like the first season is like all like shit Ainz and the mystery gang, the mystery machine, shit they all do, right? Going around solving mysteries. And like now we're seeing the consequences of them solving all these mysteries.
So at least there's going to be hopefully payoff to the quote unquote setup.
Maybe. Oh, it's Momonga, my dude. Oh, fuck. Oh.
Written by the editor.
Is that true?
This character is a plague. Oh, no.
Oh, that's spinny cam.
Wow. Oh, fuck this giant hamster.
Oh, so the Momongo-san, he's trying to pretend to be someone else, right?
Yeah. He's like scouting / making money as an adventurer.
And trying to be like a normal person.
Yeah. Why, hello there,
Infinity Gauntlet made.
Oh no, not Albedo.
Oh, hell yeah. This is the classic Einzel Goon conversation animation we've come to love.
Oh, I love this chick. She's fan service the character.
Whoa.
There's like nothing to her.
Man. Albedo is single-handedly bombing feminism back to the Stone Age.
Well, I mean, this is supposed to take place during olden times, I'd assume.
What a defense.
Oh, the naked apron.
He doesn't even have a penis. He's a skeleton. What does she think's going to happen?
I think the naked apron is like... The naked apron has to be like the most...
Wait.
Naked example of like trenchant patriarchy or like backwards patriarchy or misogyny ever.
Also, did he just admit to raping her by changing her character backstory to loving him? He did. He just said that.
I didn't
Okay, I'm
catch that. I
assuming
was
the
too busy
scene is
ranting
going to
about the
like
naked
just say
apron.
like, here's where everything is.
Oh yeah.
Exposition scene.
Oh, it's good, Ainz, that you will give her a quick rundown as we are watching. You could give her a quick rundown. Okay, yep, top, yep.
Oh, your favorite.
Oh, look at those trees. Whoa. Look at those goals. Oh my god. Fuck off. Oh no. I don't appreciate this. I don't appreciate this at all.
Why?
So the guy who's like who's got the scroll, he's supposed to be like Ainz's like eyes and ears on the ground when they fight the lizard men. And like he shows up as like this really like dangerous enemy against the lizard men. And so like it's a very like impactful like introduction, right? But like this show, like it's doing like a George Lucas thing where it's like it's trying to reincorporate the character. And
Earlier?
as a result, what's happening is just like now he's like a foreman. And I'm just like, I don't appreciate you trying to humanize this skeleton man. Just make him cool, please. Just make him always cool.
Is that a dog woman?
Yep.
Jeez, talk about ungrateful.
Everybody's a critic. Wow, what a crossfade, my dude.
Yeah, that was kind of awkward.
Okay. Oh, hell yeah, Brian. What is your analysis of this great conversation animation here?
I was just thinking that the animation just took a dip.
All right, pan up. Shot. Reverse shot.
Paper.
Paper. Shot. Paper.
Oh, that's right. Slane's Theocracy. What a name.
Yeah. The Grand Republic.
5 or 7. Which
Oh,
one?
damn. Is the Holy Kingdom. I feel like that's a... I really hope that is not a reference to the Crusades, because if they're talking about demi-human tribes, then I feel like the show is calling Muslims demi-humans.
Can she hear him? That'd be great.
I don't think so.
No, it'd just be hilarious if she could suddenly hear his inner monologue.
I really need to stress how bad of an idea having Albedo as an advisor is, because she's essentially a yes man.
Well,
Like,
for someone like Ainz, I think that's not a problem.
wow, what a crossfade. She crossfades into the chandelier. Fuck. Some guy is a mushroom. Oh, hey, Canapa.
Hey,
How's
it's
it going?
Canapa.
Hey, it's Callum. What's he doing?
Knipples.
He's making cameos in anime now.
Hey man, when you move to Japan, like the whole world opens up.
Give him a straw, man.
I think didn't he have a straw? I thought it had a straw.
Honestly, he probably could have grabbed it by the bottom of the glass, like by the handle there.
Yeah, it's just you have fins and then on the bottom stem.
Man, these crossfades.
There are a lot of crossfades in this first episode. If anybody's watching here, the purpose of a crossfade is to thematically or psychologically link characters or locations together to sort of the idea is to bleed into the scene to have a particular like a very famous crossfade is the L cut in Apocalypse Now, where
of course you would bring that up.
is the L cut in Apocalypse Now, where it goes from the choppers and the war crossfading into the character to create the sense that the war is constantly on the mind. But this show just like crossfades like out of nowhere.
Well, I feel like it uses it so much that it kind of loses all meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like the George Lucas wipes. It's just like a circle wipe. Left to right wipe.
In fact, the wipes were really jarring in Last Jedi.
I'm telling you, man. What if everything about Star Wars is bad? The movie. All makes sense.
Like, it was just exposing how bad Star Wars always was.
It feels like Star Wars if it was written by a guy who really doesn't like Star Wars, but he's contractually obligated to make a Star Wars movie.
That sounds exactly like what happened. He literally does not like Star Wars.
My guess is Rian Johnson doesn't actually like Star Wars. He just wanted to work on a Star Wars movie.
Look at this. Look at this still shot. Look at this. It's still going.
It's so long. Oh, dude. Okay. He changed his head. Okay, that's cool. That's cool. He changed his head. That's right. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, but Ainz, my dude, you're a member of the top guild, Ainz Ogun, which you then named after which you named yourself after.
Uh-oh.
Okay, I need to stress something right now. All right, I really need to stress something. You can see in the mountains, right?
Yeah.
You can see the mountains, and you can actually see how low the tree line is, right? The dead zone for the tree line. It's like the part where like trees stop growing on the mountain because it's so consistently cold. It's so low. So that essentially implies that the climate they live in is very cold. But these are fucking lizard people.
I love how they keep not showing the mouths move.
Yep, they really do. Oh, here we go. Yeah, so like every time they show the mouth move though, it's like a constant, it's like a motion sequence that just gets like replayed on a loop.
God damn it. It's everywhere.
Like, are the lizard men warm-blooded or are they cold-blooded? Because if they're cold-blooded, they shouldn't be living here. But if they're warm-blooded, then are they really lizards?
They're lizard people, man.
Yeah, okay. Reclaiming the word lizard.
They fought for their rights.
Yeah. Oh, dude, he's got a Zanbok toe, my dude. Maybe he's gonna go
Naked lizard
Bankai.
people.
I do like how they had to show like little lizard people frolicking.
Oh my god.
You can tell when like the people who are working on this, like they know that the fans are gonna like this because like they start playing fucking music.
Well, it's kind of like, to make things more epic, you play music with like vocals.
Yeah, it's like the dramatic overture.
I think Sawano really was one of the people who like really like popularized that.
I like that ending, but I don't know why I care because the only time we saw the lizard people is just there at the ending.
Yep. Oh hell yeah! Shoutouts to the Korean subcontractors. Okay, so that was episode 1, season 2 of Overlord, also called Overrodo.
Sakuga Overload.
Yeah. So I want to read out some of the comments in the watchoverlord.com community.
That was a great ending. Sorry.
the oh my god. The myth of feminism says,
oh my god, I didn't even see his name.
The name is The Myth of Feminism. Oh, this is already a problem. This was better than my. Well, okay. Let's do a different voice here. This was better than my highest expectations. Absolutely magnificent. I knew Overlord season 2 would be good, but this is off the charts. Please stay this good. This is the beginning of what might be the greatest season of anime of all time. Oh.
Hey man, wait till Overlord 3.
So what you're saying is that I should not get show recommendations from The Myth of Feminism. He might be a bit biased. Next comment. Jigamaster says, "Whoa, this is lit as fuck. I'm gonna wait for 3 months later and watch it. That way I will have like at least 12 episodes to watch consecutively. P.S. The animation/art is lit as fuck too."
Animation, there's barely any movement this episode.
Well, I feel like this guy might have watched the first 2 minutes, like, and then did what I did, which was like, wow, this looks really good. And then stopped watching and said, I'm going to wait 3 months to watch the whole thing at once.
He's just talking about, like, the opening sequence.
That's what I feel like happened here.
Oh, this is so good. My expectations are so high. I'm going to wait until all of it is out and then I'll watch it later. Okay, so good.
Yeah, that was an episode.
Since I've read the light now, okay, Matthew Villanueva says, since I've read the light novels and know what's about to happen, God, this is gonna be painful. Yep. Yes, it is, Matthew. I too have read the light novels now because as a lot of people in the old Overlord live reaction said, this gets explained in the light novel. So I said, okay, well, this time I'm not getting blindsided. So when I say I hate this show, I've also read the light novel, so you can't pull that on me this time.
I felt like there was just, like, for a show that's trying to sell you on, like, just cool stuff happening, there was just an overall lack of cool stuff happening this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's... I have difficulty, like, feeling like how a lot of these like Overlord like super fans seem to be feeling. Like, you know, they're like, oh my god, this is amazing. This is gonna be so amazing. So it's gonna be awesome, so amazing. Because I feel like if I was an Overlord fan and I'm watching this, I'd be all like, nothing really feels like it has a particular momentum except like at the very end. Like that's it.
Well, this was a classic like opening episode where you're kind of restating the world, which Irons very gracefully did with the map.
Very gracefully.
And kind of, I guess they're setting up plot elements, but I don't know because they don't explain anything. Things just kind of happen.
I don't think I feel like the directing in this show is just really atrocious, and that really like kills a lot of it. It's like there's this point it uses a lot of crossfades first of all, but there's actually this point in the episode where it does a match cut, but it's really bad, so you don't really notice it.
Yeah, let's talk about that. There's a lot of either like very extraneous or needless match cuts or matching crossfades in Overlord in this episode. Like the one that sticks out the most to me is where Albedo is talking, and then it crossfades into the chandelier, which, like, is it implying she's a chandelier? Is it implying that she's an inanimate object? Is Overlord actually a feminist critique of Overlord?
Well, as you know, feminism is a myth, right?
Oh, the myth of feminism.
The
myth of feminism. If you watch this channel,
I think
the door's always open.
I'm assuming while being facetious, I think what they were using the crossfades there was to say that Irons was talking about those specific conversations, but I think it was just poorly done. They could have just done a normal.
Well, I think what they're trying to communicate with the crossfades is that everything's going to kind of converge together. Like you have all these opposing parties, and they're all sort of interconnected.
I didn't get a sense of any opposing party here. I don't know.
Yeah, I think they're like trying to make them all converge together, but like, you know, like a written essay, something converging together can still not make sense if the convergences are like kind of arbitrary, and that's what the crossfades kind of feel like in the situation.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think it would have been better just to do like hard cuts. I mean, like it's kind of odd.
Yeah.
Well, it feels kind of like people who just like started using Sony Vegas for the first time. And they're like, oh, cool, crossfade.
Crossfading Sony Vegas.
Gotta get your money in.
Yeah, especially if you pay $30 for the Humble Bundle. Okay. What else? Yeah, I really need to stress how I don't enjoy how they showed that's the Elderlick as a foreman. I don't like that.
Well, it doesn't really make him out to be like any threat, really. It's just so nonchalant.
I think there's a sort of performance parallelism that's happening. So like, you know, you got Ainz Goon, who is like, Ainz Goon is a performance by a Japanese salaryman. So he's like pretending to be Ainz Goon. And like you can see that really stressed in this episode where like the VA constantly switches. And so it makes a lot of sense thematically that happens to his minions as well, because the Elderlick is Ainz's minion. So like you have the Elderlick, who is essentially I don't care if you mute yourself, Brian. I mean, like, this is such a low effort endeavor. But like
It just comes up, man. It's the city. This wouldn't be a recording if the city didn't make an appearance, right?
Hell yeah. But like you have like Ainz, so you got Ainz as like this character of performance, and then you've got his minions, who are also performing in different ways. You know, you got the Elderlick, who is not just like an evil dude to come in. He's also a foreman, apparently.
He's just a salary guy.
Yeah, he too is another work.
I'm just trying to collect a paycheck.
So another working day schlub.
I kind of get wanting to show that side of him, but I feel like introducing him that way just like it's not really. It doesn't like get the most out of like the excitement. You know what I mean?
It does,
like,
yeah.
For like a first episode to really get you back, like, yeah, this is Overlord season 2. I don't feel like it really did that.
Yeah, like I think it actually kind of does a disservice to that character. So like the Lizard Men arc is the arc where the audience vantage point really starts to shift. You know, it starts to shift to the Lizard Men. You know, we start to see the events as they're starting to happen from the Lizard Men point now. So like there's going to be a scene where the Elderlick is going to show up, and then he's going to be very menacing to the Lizard Men. And like to capture that sort of menacing aspect, I think it would have been best if you introduced him first like that. Because now what's happened here is that now that he's introduced as like this goddamn foreman, you're gonna watch it and you're gonna say, "Oh, hey, cool! It's that dude from the first episode. He's the foreman at the construction site." You know, it loses the teeth of the character's presentation. Yeah.
I mean, I just want to point this out there, though. If you had not pointed out that skeleton thing, I probably won't even notice. So, like, when he comes back later, I'll be like, "Oh, here's some random guy that was never explained who's super powerful. I guess that's cool."
Well, I'm just arguing as somebody who's read the light novels.
Well, I think just in terms of the first episode too, like I don't know, like the way they chose to present this entire first episode by making it just mostly talking heads.
Yes. There's a lot of reverse shot.
Yeah, I think it just took away from it heavily.
Yeah, but I can see why they would do that, because I mean, like, what would you really be doing, right? You know, there's not really like action stuff happening yet. And
well, they could have animated what Ainz was talking about instead of just doing reverse shot map.
I think like the big map scene, for example, like I get, all right, we need to show where everything is in relation to each other because this is important for later. But why not, animate that further? Like a lot of shows when they do like a map scene, they show like, oh, this is this area. It's just him pointing at a map.
Yes, it is. Which makes you wonder if that was if that was a purposeful move, right? Because like it's not that much harder. It's not that much harder to draw like just one sing. It's not that much harder to draw like just one background and just do a camera pan, right? Like doesn't even have to have layers of like movement. It just can just be a drawing. It has a pan.
I feel like they also did this map thing in the first season. Like I feel like there was an exact sequence where Ainz was explaining plot to people and just pointing at a map about things. So I could be wrong. I don't know. I don't see the appeal of the show. I don't know why people get so hyped. Like I understand light novels might be great and all this stuff, but like nothing happens in this show. And if you have to read the light novels to get the show, I don't understand.
I think the appeal of the show, or some appeal of it, is that when you look at it in the context of all the other isekai coming out, right? The general isekai formula, or the general Naruto type isekai formulas, is just like Japanese high schooler with a head full of hair and a dick full of cum. He gets sent to another world through some reason or means. and he becomes a hero. He becomes an overpowered hero, and then he either goes off an adventure doing wacky things or whatever. And he's tasked with defeating the Mao, the Demon King. In Overlord, this is it's like the Breaking Bad of isekai, in the context that like you're watching somebody turn evil.
Well, I just read in the comment section that Ainz isn't really evil, and he doesn't go out of his way to kill things without a reason. That was a lame joke. But like, I mean, if the show played that more, I would get that. Like, if it was like more of a critique on that trope, on the Also, in the first season when we were critiquing the show, we were talking about how this was like a cliche transported into the world thing. People got pissed about that. But I guess now that that's open, people are okay to talk about that. It's just another kid gets put into a video game story.
We've been shitting on isekai for like 3 years.
I mean, when every single show is one of those, I don't understand the appeal to them.
Well, the appeal is just like, you just don't like. The appeal is pretty straightforward, right? Like it's for people who don't want to see like the. So like, I think it's partially in reaction to like the stuff you see that came out in like the late 2000s shonen stuff.
Yeah.
Because okay, so it makes a lot of sense in a lot of different ways. So so you look at the people writing these stories. There are essentially a lot of them are young people in their late teens, early 20s. A lot of them are writing on Shousetsuga ni Naru. A lot of these people are, so based on their age, a lot of them would have actually been growing up on things like the big Shonen Jump stories, like Naruto, Bleach, One Piece, that kind of stuff. And they have fairly straightforward quasi-Campbellian like character developments. So like, you have characters who work very hard, and then, through guts and determination, they overcome all the odds and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's a very interpolative practice. The idea that you have these kids growing up, and then and they're taught in these comics they're taught growing up that, if you work hard, you got a lot of guts, and, you do these things, you succeed. That's what the comics have been teaching us. That's what the manga have been teaching us as we're growing up. And then they grow up, and bam, we're in the mid 2000s. We're in the post 9/11 era. We're in the sort of post Junichiro Koizumi era, where like major neoliberal reforms happen that adversely affect a lot of young people, to the point where they're saying, well, like being just working hard and having guts and overpowering to win just isn't enough anymore. The narrative, the Campbellian narrative isn't really there now. Because, we're seeing the increase of precarity. We're seeing the increase of like, temporary workers. We're seeing the increase of, like the part-time workers.
Joe, just say it.
And
just say the PM word. Just say it.
And so what happens? No.
Yes, you want to say it because you were going down that road.
And so what happens is, they don't want that particular narrative anymore. They don't want that linear narrative anymore. So now they want a satisfactory narrative in which like they are powerful, they are in control of something. We see the beginnings of this, with like the battle royale types coming out, right? In the early to mid 2000s. And then we're seeing like as they're shifting out, I think isekai probably have like closer psychological lineages to the battle royale types, the Sabaibuke, than like really like stuff like Sword Art Online or stuff like that, honestly. Like these particular isekai, we're seeing like these ones more likely. And so like that's why they're so like large. And there's also like a production interest in why there are so many of them are being made, right? Because like Shosetsuka Ninaru is like, it's like a web novel site, and a lot of the top ones are isekai. And so if you're like some if you're some intrepid producer with a head full of hair and a dick full of cum, and
You used that now twice.
and you're thinking of like some sort of media property to make into like a media mix, or to adapt into a media mix, like what, like, it makes a lot of sense to go after a property that already is proven to have a very strong pre-existing following. Like why not adapt like these amateur works from this large, very popular site, which has like hundreds of thousands of readers on any given story. And you've essentially already have a cultivated audience ready and willing to go. And a lot of these people don't come from anime. A lot of these people don't come from manga. So as a result, like for instance, like Nagatsuki Teppei, he was a butcher before like ReZero blew up. So like a lot of these people don't come from particularly creative backgrounds, and so like they are more likely to potentially buckle on particular production decisions. And so like there's a lot of confluences happening at the exact same time to make isekai the popular thing it is.
Drama.
So in other words, postmodernism?
Yeah.
Oh no! Oh no!
I mean, the fact that these people are non-classically trained is evident. Like, I'm not saying you need to be classically trained to write. Everyone can write, but
like I'm pretty sure a few of them are are trained in some of like artistic production to some degree, but like most of them aren't, right?
Yeah, but I feel like with a little bit of extra editing work, this would probably be really good. Like if there was some extra attention to detail and care placed into this property, like it could really do something. Like if Ainz was really a critique on certain elements, but it's not. It's just a power fantasy. That's just what it is. It's a power fantasy.
Well, yeah, that's exactly what they want. But like that's what they want, right? They want like power fantasies in a particular veneer.
I guess that's I guess that's how Trump got elected. It was just a power fantasy. And I know it's a joke to say that, but like the reality is I don't think that's far off.
I wouldn't really call isekai
no one's gonna make it this far, so it doesn't
isekai writers as bad as like Nazi tiki torch nationalists.
Whoa. No one said that. You said that. Don't you put those words in my mouth. I was talking about the zeitgeist at large that Trump wrote, the wave that he rode in on, which was like this power fantasy of people just wanting to be in control and powerful without much of anything. And I kind of miss, this is what I hate about a lot of Western literature, is where like the main character is just powerful because he's the main character. Harry Potter. It's like one of the things I loved about anime growing up was like the main characters had to try so hard. Like I always liked Naruto, and I hated Sasuke because Sasuke was just strong because he was Sasuke, but Naruto had to fucking work to be strong. Granted, he had the nine-tailed thing going on, but like there's a good message about like just being positive and working hard and overcoming adversity.
Well, that I think is part of the reason why these isekai are coming out so much, right? Or why they're getting so much traction now. Is because not only is there like an influx of production, but there's also an influx of people responding to it. Because a lot of them a lot of people growing up on Naruto, on stuff like Bleach or Naruto or One Piece, they are now at the age in which the they can now, like, they're now at the age in which they're probably just leaving high school, because Naruto came out in like the late 90s, right? It started in the late 90s or like early 2000s, late
They're
90s.
in high school, bro. They should be leaving college.
So like now they're essentially people who are, well, so now they're people. These are the people writing isekai, are the people who also grew up on Shonen Jump narratives, and now they're in a workforce. They're now in a workforce and in a workplace where the Shonen Jump narrative isn't tenable.
Yeah.
So what do they want? Well, they don't want stories now that are saying that to them might feel like a lie. They don't want stories that say like, oh, if you just work hard and all that kind of stuff, everything is going to come to you. They want a story where they are successful. And how are they going to do that? Well, I don't think they can So like, here's the thing, right? I don't think they can conceptualize particularly well a way in which how you can be successful outside of the sort of Japan Inc. great building up, meritocratic grand narrative that's been sort of ingrained into you. So what do? You write a story in which you're already powerful, in which you're already successful, and then you go from there.
That's all well and good, but I wanted to talk about the show.
Also, hey, Michael.
Are we talking about the show? I feel like One Punch Man does it better. Now, they get away with it by pretending that he trained really hard and stuff. But yeah, come on. It was like a 5-minute little thing.
I think One Punch Man is actually very interesting as a show about mobility. As a show about like socioeconomic mobility, because a lot of the things that One Punch Man talks about, it talks about there's a wonderful term in sort of transnational flow studies called immobility. And immobility is spelled like IM bracket MO N bracket ability. And essentially it's the idea that when we talk about the progressive nature of highly developed late capitalist societies, we tend to think of them as being very mobile. The trains and the buses and cars, trains, planes, and planes, trains, automobiles, John Candy, all that kind of stuff. That like we can move to, there's a city over there, and if there's work there, I can move there really easily. It's not like olden times. It's not like the medieval pre-industrial era where it's just like, you're born, raised in a village, you die in that village. The late capitalist society is mobile, or at least that's the rhetoric that's coming out about that particular type of society. But in reality, we're not actually that mobile, because if you think about it, if you move to another city, it's not because you have a particular choice of movement. It's that's where the flow goes. That's where the jobs are. So you have to go there. And so as a result, the mobility is actually incredibly stationary, because you're forced to move to a particular thing. There's no particular broad sapience or broad choice of moving, to say. And so like that's what's called the immobility, that it looks like we can move around a lot, but we're actually just following flows that dictate where we're going. And I think that happens a lot in One Punch Man, which is really interesting, because Saitama, he lives in Z City, and it's like this rundown, the rent is cheap, really dangerous, but he's super powerful, so he's pretty okay with that. But he comes off as initially as this sort of quasi rogue agent that just comes in to beat up monsters, and then he leaves. And it looks like he's a very mobile person, right? He's a very it seems like he's a very nomadic person. But you think about it, boom, he doesn't have the money to really go anywhere else. So he's not actually that mobile. He operates outside the system, so technically he has so much freedom to operate outside the system, but he doesn't really, because he doesn't have any money to make. He doesn't really make any money unless he goes into the system. And when you get to the web comics for One Punch Man, after the Garo arc, spoilers, After the Garo arc, they build a city for these superheroes. They build a city for these superheroes and for these people to live in. It's a remade city. And so you think like, oh, they're moving to these new cities and they're, so much better. The security is so much better and so on and so forth. But they're also incredibly immobile spaces because like you don't really say like, I'm choosing to now go live there, but the circumstances that have been beset upon me force me to go live there because those are the only options that are given to me. So yeah, that's what I think One Punch Man is really talking about, like the sort of the postmodern capital. In that like it's mobile, but it's not really mobile,
Yes, let's just go with that. So, I mean, I guess we don't have anything else to say about Overlord.
Michael,
Anime of the year.
Michael, do you have any other things to say?
Good talk, Mike. Good talk. That was really insightful. So profound. It's changed my whole perspective.
Maybe his mic isn't like connected.
Um.
Well, there we go. It was the sequel I never expected. And I'm not sure how many people asked for it, but I know there was definitely clamor, so...
Yeah, we were reading the comment section earlier. It was pretty great.
Yeah, we're reading some of the comment sections. We're reading the comment section on watchoverlord.com, which is a very good non-biased source for all your Overlord takes.
Oh, I imagine.
So
Top comment by the myth of feminism. Oh my god.
Is Overlord just a show for fans, not for broad audience?
I don't think it so like that's hard to say, right? Because like that's questioning like what the author's intention is.
Well, the author's dead, so we don't have to worry about that.
Well, I mean, like the frame of the questioning is asking like what is the intention of the person who created Overlord, right?
Well, the book, not to cut you off, but I feel like the book and the show are two separate entities. Like I feel like the book is probably something I can get behind, but the show is so like I feel like the show is just a piece of media for people who have read the books.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
If you've not read the books.
I think like almost all isekai are. Like almost all like the isekai and Naruto type stories are.
And that's a trend. There's that's happening a lot in Western cultures too.
The media mix.
Yeah, dude.
Well, more than anything, it's actually a really interesting point you brought this up. I noticed a very similar, like almost a one-for-one in terms of how people reacted with Horizon on the Middle of Nowhere, in which it was a case of where people who were really interested in the books or knew of the books were very large fans, and those that weren't generally detested the show. I mean, it was a very, very polarized. Usually you see polarity in show reactions, but especially for that, more than anything else, it was either people are like, oh, it's pretty good, or otherwise people were like, this is the worst show I've ever seen. And I was one of those people where I was like, this can't be for real. They have a literal person in the show that passes out curry. That's an Indian dude. Like, what is the point of this character? What did they serve? It was fascinating to see how people reacted to that. And when I talked to people, that was sort of the reaction is, well, you need to read the books. Well, the books are really good.
Yeah.
I feel that a lot of modern media is assuming the viewer/consumer has consumed other points of media to understand that. And I think that that's fine on a certain level, but ultimately it makes it so you're not really getting complete and contained stories. You're getting snippets of a story that you have to consume everything to understand. And for those not inside the bubble, it's very difficult to penetrate that bubble.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry. What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna like the Marvel movies do this, where like no one movie is a standalone movie. It's like you kind of have to watch them all somewhat to get it. Joss Whedon wrote a very good blog piece about why he left Marvel, and it's essentially because they wouldn't let him tell a standalone story. I think there's just similarities everywhere. I know this is an anime thing, but like, I feel like culture is more ubiquitous. It's more everything's happening everywhere. I don't think it's independent to one country or region. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
I think it's pretty easy to look. I think it's pretty easy to like look at like the discussion happening around these types of stories coming out of anime and manga specifically, though, because like we've got like these are like this is world consumption. So if anybody in the comment section is unfamiliar with world consumption, it's the idea proposed by Otsuka Eiji, who was one of the former editors of Manga Buriko. And he says world consumption is the idea that when a story to like a lot of otaku, and I'm just going to expand that. I'm going to expand his group to just like a lot of Japanese youngsters in general nowadays. But like to a lot of people reading these types of stories, when you pick up Overlord or when you pick up any other thing that has a particular media mix, you don't go and say like, oh, this is like a singular story that has a particular beginning, middle, and end. You think of it as sort of like a point. You think of it like as a point within like a larger network of a world that has been built. And so now you start to consume other pieces of that world. And so like it's like works that constantly leverage other elements related to that world around it. So you're not reading stories. You're not just reading stories that have a sort of a holism to them. You're reading stories that exist within a world that you like. It's kind of like people who, so like in this case, in the context of Overlord here, like honestly, unless like the show is so profoundly bad and problematic, most of them probably are just going to be completely okay with how it runs, because most of them don't come here for like the show as a singular show with a beginning, middle, and end. They come here for the show as a product of the larger world in which it represents, which they do enjoy.
Yeah, and that's on some level that's fine, but you have to understand then to like people not in that bubble, it makes no sense.
Yeah, well, like that's the thing, right? It like the people who are not in that bubble, they're using the language of the sort of aesthetic holism language. Like they watch the show, or like they read the book or whatever. And then they say like, oh, why is it doing this thing here? Or why is it doing this thing here? This doesn't make any sense. Like what we were doing like 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like we are outside of that particular world consumption method. But people who are firmly in that world consumption method, they are comfortable saying, this story, this particular, this show shows this character here that doesn't seem to really do much. But I know in this other material about the same world that this character does this other thing, and I'm okay with that. So like it's like a precursor to Azuma Hiraki's database model, But like instead of like the database existing in this grand non-narrative layer, it's like the world becomes a sort of its own sort of micro database in which things are being sort of picked out of, and then that becomes a sort of leverage as to how people enjoy these things.
Yeah. All right.
So yeah, do we have any other thing to talk about?
No, I mean, unfortunately, I don't know what else to say about that show. Like nothing happened in it. like I know, Roger, you wouldn't talk about it, but nothing fucking happened.
Pretty much.
Well, I think that's very symbolic, since that was the same problem the first episode had, was that really nothing happened.
Yep.
Yeah. I feel like,
oh yeah, the first episode, first season, yeah, that was such a nothing episode.
a nothing bomb.
I mean, we discover that he's trapped in the world, but his result of being trapped is just very...
We don't discover it. They just state it.
Yeah, they just state it. Yeah, I
It's
should
like
state so.
that's what I hate about this. Is like at no point do they ever set up that he's just this salary dude trapped in a world. No, he just wakes up and is like, "Oh, I'm trapped in a video game. Trust me on this, people. I know what I'm talking about." And it's like, why should we trust you?
I remember actually when I watched the first episode back in 2015, I was kind of confused because I had thought like he was just like he could log out, but he was just stuck because they don't explain it very well.
They explain nothing, and they explain so little that I'm like, why isn't he just some evil skeleton man in a real fantasy world? Why even do the video game trope if he's like, if you're not going to use the video game trope, then why even bother just casually saying, "Oh, I'm stuck in a video game. Now here we go." And it's like you just added one sentence and then never going to bring it up again. And it's like, what do you think I'm an asshole? Like, I don't understand what you're trying to do here. Like,
See, that's sort of the thought process I had as well going into the first episode, was because his reaction is so dull and he doesn't really seem to care that he's trapped there. I can understand, okay, I hate the real world. I'm glad to be trapped in the game, but his reaction is more of indifference. He doesn't really care. It's just business as usual. There's no real celebration. It's just, oh, I'm stuck in the game. Things feel real. I can grab my minion's breast with my claw hand. You know, it actually feels real. Therefore, I guess things have changed. And he's like, my first order of business is to go tend to the dungeons and go listen to these two elven kids exposit.
yeah, it's like, why even do the video game thing if you're not even like? It's like the character didn't even care. I don't understand. It's so weird.
Yeah, that's my problem with the whole show, is that the presentation is just so nonchalant.
Yeah.
I think so Overlord, in terms of like the just like not just starting off as a skeleton man, I think there's a quasi practical element to that, because like then he can just be like quirky kooky skeleton man, right? Because like if he was like a evil skeleton man right from the beginning, then we'd just be watching an evil skeleton man be evil all the time. But like, you know, the juxtaposition is like him as like this Japanese salary man who's like pretending to be evil skeleton man. So he's just like, oh no, oh so sorry. But like Overlord is so this is a point I will give to Overlord, as much as it pains me. But like Overlord is actually, I think, a counter-nationalistic isekai, which is actually somewhat rare. So what it means, what I'm talking about is a lot of isekai have a very nationalist or imperialist bent to it, because a lot of them are Japanese people go into this other world. This other world has very clear problems that the Japanese people thereby sort of impose their sort of Japanese sentiments or neoliberal sentiments onto them. And all these people, they just love it. Like they're just like, oh, cool, awesome. You're so genius, so wonderful. Or like they have some particular ability that is so impressive, but it seems like it's so normal in Japan. You know, it's this uplifting of like, it's this uplifting of this normalized core, and everybody else is like a periphery. You know, you can see it in like Isekai Shokudo, where like everybody, you know, all the people are just like, oh wow, this cooking is so amazing. Or you can see it in like, you can see it in, oh goddamn, what's that other? There's an isekai where a guy is an economics student, and he goes and he teaches people like how to do fucking crop rotation. And I'm just like, an econ student wouldn't know that. Why would you know that? And there's like another one where, what is it?
More snaps.
Yeah, this is how I think. But there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them. I know I've provided a small number of examples contrary to my claim, but there are a lot of them that have a very like sort of like imperialist bent. Gate, the the perennial punching bag is one. Like it's very naked about it, right? You know, it's very naked about using like Japanese, like wartime World War II wartime Japanese military rhetoric to essentially say, oh, but it's good. It's all good. It's all good. Because like everybody who goes into like the fort of Et Alnus loves it. You know, there's like, oh wow, this is such a wonderful place. You know, they're so benevolent.
What about Outbreak Company though?
I haven't watched Outbreak Company. I have it on my list. I just haven't gotten around
because that one's very anti-cool Japan.
Like
the Japanese government do not get presented in a good light in that show.
Well, isn't Outbreak Company like less so like about the Japanese government and more so about like the otaku?
Well, it's about basically cultural exports, because what the Japanese government's trying to do in that show is utilize this the cultural exports as a means to indoctrinate the other world.
Indeed.
Yeah. And what ends up happening is there's a generational clash between the old generation of this other world, who's basically have their own values ingrained in them, and the younger generation who's being indoctrinated with these Japanese values due to the cultural exports.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think so. Again, I haven't seen it yet, but I do think, based on that description, it does sound like it would be like one of the things that like don't fall in line with what we usually see with isekai. But I think Overlord is also one of them, because like it's Ainz comes in, but like his attempts at sort of, there really is no attempt at imbibing a sort of Japanese neoliberalism in here, because he firmly falls into the structures of the world that he's in. And he's an evil dude. He essentially becomes an evil dude. So it doesn't really like applaud him for it.
What I always thought was a missed opportunity is that when he enters this evil world, even then when he's trapped in it, he's a lich. And based upon the mythos of a lich, they're devoid of emotion. So I was always kind of curious in terms of the adaptation of the salaryman sort of becoming the lich, because that's the thing, the longer he's in the world, according to the novels anyways, from what my friend told me, the longer he's in the world, the more devoid of humanity he becomes.
Yeah,
which would make for really an interesting development. But you know, it's you kind of already see that from the start. You don't really see the slow transition of that, which I always thought was a missed opportunity. Which then kind of begged the question of, you know, like, what do people relate to when they see this? Because they can understand the escapism factor. But, you know, at the same time, when you're devoid of that humanity, don't you separate yourself too far from the audience?
I think that's it right there. This is just escapist material. It's an escapist work for people who read escapism. Like, I don't think that there's anything beyond escapism.
But that's really interesting what you said, Michael, that it looks like it could be an analogy for the Japanese salaryman. Like if he's so like if we think of Nazarick as a corporate machine, and Ainz is a salaryman who's constantly losing his emotions, who is slowly losing his emotions, which is, you know, that sense of self. Then that means that Ainz, who was originally a Japanese salaryman, has essentially been transported into another world where he's pretty much the exact same thing. And so, like, that implies that there is actually something profoundly messed up about what the author thinks about what isekai stories do, which is that, like, they are escapist. They do go into other worlds, and they are escapists and so on and so forth, but they don't solve anything. like through that perspective, I think that's a really good point, Michael. That's a really interesting take. But what do you guys think about it? Like the idea that like if this is another world, then there's a particular troubling parallel which heavily implies that the author is actually critiquing isekai stories and saying, well, hold on, just jumping into the other world doesn't fix the structure.
I would say he was critiquing it if he handled it better, but he's not. Because outside of like, again, I don't buy that I just stuck in a video game. I just don't. I watched the show and don't even think about that. It has no bearing on the plot. It's just he's an evil lich dude in a medieval world. At no point does the video game trope play at all in the plot for me or in the narrative. It doesn't impact him as a character because it literally has no effect on him. He never talks about it, never kind of has like this inner monologue and inner struggle about it. Nope, he's just always business, always doing stuff. And I know that kind of plays into your point of like, he's a salary man, devoid of emotion, always business. But like, again, if the author was really trying to do that, I think that they would do more with it. But since the author isn't, I don't think they are. I don't trust George Lucas to make that argument, let alone this guy.
I'm reading the description for the author's Mal page, and it says that basically he wrote like this short story that was adapted into like a sequel to Tsukihime, and Nasu apparently thought it was like really good. And so I guess from what it looks like, this guy is kind of just like a prodigy or something. Because there's also the last paragraph, which is kind of weird, because it says he is a big fan of the Dungeons and Dragons game. One of the reasons he started writing again was all of his D&D buddies were too busy to play with him.
Yep.
Which is kind of like, okay.
Yeah, and that was brought up for the first season.
Yeah, that was brought up in the first season by many commenters.
But, okay, Ainz never talks about that.
Well, he talks about it in like the first episode.
He mentions it once and then never again. So, like, saying something once doesn't make it true.
I think that connection though is actually pretty useful in the context of like what we're talking about, because like that sort of cements the idea that Ainz does very much feel like the insert of the author's sentiments, and so like
100% he's author insert.
Yeah, and so like now that tells us a little bit about what the author thinks about like structures of control.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
So it is a power fantasy.
Yeah, it's which we said 20 minutes ago.
It all comes back.
All right. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
So would you recommend it, Joe?
Not really. No. Not really. But I mean,
go read Wheel of Time. It's better.
I guess if you like isekai already, then give it a shot. Why not?
Expand your cultural horizons. There's so much better media out there. Don't waste your time on this garbage.
Michael, Roger, what do you guys think?
Well, maybe the author of this, Kugane Maruyama, maybe he's pulling a Tomino here, and he wrote this story to get audiences to realize that there are better stories than what's in light novels and what's in anime.
That would be genius if he did that, Roger. Although now you have to finish this show, right? Because you started it.
Yep.
You have your choice now. So.
You made your bed, now you have to lie in it.
No, obviously people who are fans of the first season are going to continue to enjoy the show. As somebody who didn't care for the first season, I'm kind of curious to see if we're going to get sort of the same thing that we got out of the first season for the second. I'm pretty sure we will, from the understanding at least of a friend of mine who read some of the light novels, but I'm still sort of intrigued with that. But no, it's I mean, that's just people who enjoyed it will. People who had problems with the first season, I mean, as we can tell from the first episode, I don't think any of them were really addressed. And that's if you enjoyed it and that was your thing, then that's fine, But I would support reading The Wheel of Time. More people should. So.
Yeah. I mean, you want to talk about a modern power fantasy that kind of actually has depth to it. I feel like The Wheel of Time is a good way, like a good read Overlord and then go to Wheel of Time. No, seriously, like I would say reading Overlord probably has some benefit to it. Because I'm going this based on the fact that I think the light novels probably have more depth and detail to them. Reading in general is always better.
Yeah, so that is pretty much it. Thanks to anybody who watches this whole thing. But
No one made it this far.
No one made it this far.
If you made it this far, post a comment.
Post a comment.
The password is banana.
Yes. Post banana if you got this far. Yeah.
Funny enough, I name all my RPG characters Banana.
Bananas. Thanks to Roger and Michael for showing up. And yeah. See us next week for episode 2.
Are we really going to do this next week?
Hell yeah.
You got no choice. You're in this long haul.
I'm assuming next week and the subsequent episodes are going to be much, much shorter.
I hope
because we're laying down groundwork. First episode.
Yeah.
I thought it was because even less will happen in those episodes.
Oh. Roger with the hot takes.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. I'll see you guys later.
It is a bad show.